Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to design the magazine and the ammunition. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the magazine work, and I'm going to show you how to make a double stack magazine as well. So that the ammo looks like it's double stacking instead of single stacking, which makes your magazines have more realistic capacities, especially if you're using double stack or models that use double stack magazines. This particular model actually does. This is a 30 round magazine, and we're going to be loading it all the way. So looks about right there. You notice how it fits almost perfectly. And we're going to just basically go off the basic shape of these things. So first we're going to go ahead and make the ammunition. Like that. Oop. Copy it. And like this. And if you know how to use GIMP to make gradient textures, you can do that to make your cartridges look a little bit more realistic. We're going to find a texture, and I'm going to go ahead and use this one. I think this one looks pretty solid. There we go. No, I'm kidding. That one's a little bit too dark. So we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of a lighter one. Now we're going to use my gradient 3 texture. Make it golden, darken it just a little bit. Make that a little bit darker than the rest. Go ahead, kind of chamfer these edges so that it looks a little bit more realistic. Just kind of take off the very corners of these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transform this into a circle, make it about the size of the casing itself, kind of extend it like that. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half, delete that, make a box roughly the same size as the cartridge, as far as the bullet diameter, combine shapes, add. What we're going to do is we're going to actually use the U key and do that, and I think there we go. So there's your basic ammunition design. So this is all collision layer A, overlaps pretty well, I would say. Actually we can, oops, go ahead and take this out just in here. What I'm going to do is kind of select everything, hit Control G, that groups it. We're going to go ahead and delete that. Next what we're going to do is we're going to fixate all these together. And there's a very important step. This will make it double stack. Select no soft collision. Then when you put two together, they don't collide with each other. However, when we add the primer and the powder, they will. And I'll show you that in just a second. Alright, so what we're going to do now is going to make the primer. Try and center it as best as possible. Bring it in just a hair. Make another one. Make these both collision layer B. Make them relatively heavy. Have no friction. Also, this makes it look better when it feeds to the lip of your magazine. Instead of falling short of the lip and looking like it's completely inside the magazine, it'll actually look a little bit more realistic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select that, add a spring, and we'll adjust this later. Oops. Alright, and then just go ahead and make it about 500. You know what? How large is a gun? I would say about 3 meters, so we're going to make this about 50 meters long. And we'll adjust all this later. Also make the bullets, the casing, make it about 5 to 10 or 0.05 to 0.1 friction, and increase its density to about 75 all around. Alright, so there you have your basic ammunition, and then watch what happens when I place multiple of them on top of each other. Notice how they kind of double stack. That's the result of making the casing shape itself not collide with itself. So there you go. Now delete that. Next up, let's see how it compares to the size of our magazine. Alright, so next up what we're going to do is we're going to trace the shape of the magazine, and I'm going to adjust it a little bit, make it a little bit better. So disable select by encircling, add this kind of shape. I think this is how the real thing, I think this might be an airsoft magazine. That's okay. You can use airsoft shapes for real things if they're authentic or licensed by the company. And we don't have to get the shape absolutely perfect. I mean, this is... It isn't crucial that you do it perfectly, but making it look good is a good idea. I think that's okay. So make it dark gray. I'm going to take our polygon tool and trace... Oops, I'm holding the caps lock instead of the shift key. I'm going to go ahead and trace these shapes in here. And just kind of do this for the entire magazine. It's kind of like making the gun skin, except you're making it for the magazine instead. So make that even darker gray. I think that looks okay. Just add a little bit of edge blur. Makes it always look a little bit nicer. Or not. Oh, this little thing is kind of bugging me. Oops. Oops. There, I think that's better. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, group. Alright, that was my mother. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. So you're just going to use the brush tool. Actually, we'll make this a little bit thinner. I'm just going to kind of trace the edge of the magazine. We're going to make this invisible so that you can't see it. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And then bring it here. Oh my god, I think that's too much for this thing to handle. Bring it to right about here, and then to make the shapes less glitchy, you're just going to cut them. Maybe transform this into a box. But fixate that to the background, see how well that doesn't slide through. Make these extremely heavy, extremely friction free. And still, they kind of doesn't want to behave. Oh well. Oh, there we go. That's starting to get somewhere. We're going to take a box, make this collision layer B. You'll see what this is for. This is actually going to make the magazine lip, make the friction off. And so there you go. You kind of see how that looks. Like the cartridge is protruding from the magazine a little bit. And as you just saw, I just made the walls invisible. So now we're going to make the follower, oh, might want to make this invisible as well. Make that tiny. So the follower, all we've got to do is kind of oh, right, disengage, select band circling. Oh, right, we can just make it the same diameter as the cartridge, or the same length, not diameter, length. Make this incredibly heavy, so 1,000 should do. Make it friction free, and also make it collide with collision layer B. That way, if it hits the top of the magazine or the magazine lip, it's not gonna fly through. Get a little bit longer. A little bit too wide. Drag this out just to here. I think that's about the best we're going to get it. Alright, so then we're going to take it, extend it about 2 to 3 times the height of the magazine. We're going to take it and attach the spring there. Alright, looking okay. Definitely has the power to push this cartridge up, which is what we want. So we want to flip the cartridge around, select all of it. Oops. Select all of it, and go ahead and fixate that to the background. There we go. Select all of these. I'm gonna fudge. Alright, so we're gonna select this, copy 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24, 22, 24, 26, 28, and 30. So then we can take this. Okay, wow, that's really powerful. Make them these shapes. And we're gonna use the polygon tool one more time for this shape as well. Make this one black, because you notice how dark it is. It's almost perfect black. We're gonna go ahead and make it complete black. And give it a slight edge blur, ever so slight. My mouse is so finicky, it doesn't want to behave. Alright, so appearance, draw border, make that black, and give it a slight edge blur. Like that. Make this a little bit darker too. Have to have balance. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and group those at this box. Remember, you can always adjust the dimensions of your shapes pretty easily. Take the brush tool, bring that down just a hair. Do that, and make these dark gray. Maybe a little bit darker. Alright, I think that's our magazine. So, let's see how it looks. Excellent. So now what we're going to do is take these, make this collision layer. Let's see what we have available. Enable encircling. We're going to go Wow, nothing's collision layer F. That's surprising. So we're going to go ahead and make this collision layer F, just for safety. And then fixate everything together. Now we have it all grouped already, so there you have a magazine. Go ahead and make it heavy. Leave its friction above 30 so that it doesn't slide around when you drop it. It looks ridiculous. Anyways, then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of size up the magazine a little bit. And take the brush tool. Make sure you have everything unchecked so that it doesn't fix itself to anything. Then be right back. Both. I'd say 1,000 is enough. How strong is this spring? I think it's a little bit too strong. There you go, you have your gut. No, I'm kidding. I think the friction on this lip is a little bit too low. Now let's select these. Selections, select alike. So we should have 60. Right, the friction was 0 on this. Select all these front cartridges. Hold shift and scroll towards yourself, and that'll improve the double stack look. Alright, so maybe make this a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. That's 1, 2. Oh, there we go. You have your basic magazine. Make the friction relatively low, but not 0. Right, that magazine is relatively light, and it looks to be about the right size too. Right, so we're going to go ahead and save that, and I'll see you in the next segment on how to make it the magazine well and make it chamber your rounds. See you then.